All right, we are live for our second live stream here for Florida MUFON. So we have a lot of little tidbits to go over. We're going to be hitting on the top 2016 cases for Florida MUFON. So these are all Florida cases. So we'll have some of our investigators on, our state section directors on to talk about their cases, go into the details of those cases, show some imagery if some of the images are available, and also some of the evidence that's available. So it'll be interesting. Definitely some really intriguing stories from witnesses, and some intriguing evidence, and we'll be going over that today. So, but I want to get into some stories first. We have some news that we typically hit on in the beginning. A few items came out. There was kind of a quiet month this past month, mainly because I've been so busy, but I haven't been watching a lot of news. But the Open Minds, which is a online social media news outlet for UFOs, did their big event, which is UFO Congress. They're kind of owners of the event. Alejandro Rojas has been emceeing that event or putting it on as an organizer. And one of the things they do is Researcher of the Year. Now, I'm sure you guys have heard some of the stories and some of the, the talk back and forth about Tom DeLonge. In fact, he made national news in a sense because some of the email communications about him or his research and some of the individuals in his new project that he's been working on was mentioned in some of the leaked emails from WikiLeaks. John Podesta emails were leaked, and some of these conversations about UFOs. Well, the media kind of just talked about the fact that they were talking about UFOs, but they didn't get into the details of who was involved. And that's where a lot of our, niche media outlets actually got into talking about the details. And one of those details was the fact that Tom DeLonge was having these meetings with some of these officials. Now, there was rumored that Tom was coming around saying that he's talking to some very important people, or some people of high caliber or rank within the military. No one really believed him. But then these leaks came out, and it kind of verified the individuals that were actually involved. And in fact, it actually mentioned one of the individuals, which is an Air Force general, who was helping Tom with his project, namely the Secret Machines Book 1, Chasing Shadows, was one of the books that has recently been published. You can get it on Amazon right now. And actually, in a little bit, I'm going to have Dinah Lechner, one of our state section directors, Central Florida, talk about that book because she's actually started reading it. But I want to show you the Tom DeLonge award ceremony. So I guess he wasn't at the event, but he had a pre-recorded kind of a thank you video. And so hopefully, if you guys have problems seeing it, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here, so you guys can see, the video from it as well. So let me pull up the video here and go ahead and share it. And I'm going to go ahead and play it. So enjoy the audio. It's only a couple of minutes, and it's basically his thank you address.
Tom DeLonge, the 2017 Open Minds TV UFO Researcher of the Year Award.
Hello, I'm Tom DeLonge, and I want to say thank you for acknowledging some of the hard work I've been putting into some subject matter that concerns us all and that you're passionate about, just like I. It's been a crazy whirlwind of a year or two. There's a lot that I can't say, but there's some that I can. And I'm so appreciative that I've been acknowledged for this stuff, but I'm not done. I'm just like you guys. I spent 20 years up all night reading about Roswell, Dulce, Serpo, Churchill, the crashes here, Nazis building craft there, and Antarctica, and what's on Mars, and what's on the back of the moon, and structures and anomalous this, and I mean, I've done it all. I know it all. I read all the same authors as you guys, hundreds of books. I look at all the same sites. I listen to all the coast-to-coast stuff that you guys do. I'm the same. But I kind of used some of my notoriety to try and do something pretty ambitious, and it worked. I came out and told you guys about a book I was writing called Secret Machines, and I said a bunch of stuff that I was working with some people. Well, I think a lot of people doubted it, and they thought it was crazy that this musician would have this kind of access. And then the WikiLeaks thing happened, and I think you guys saw that I'm into some serious shit, and I'm making really good progress. I can't tell you what I'm about to announce. If you look at my social media, at least on my Instagram, you'll see that I said there's going to be an announcement in like within the next 60-ish days. I want you all to know in the UFO community that, you know, whoever's passionate about this kind of paradigm shifting subject matter, I need you all to look really, really closely at that announcement, and I need you to be a part of it, because what that announcement is about is so much more than it will look like on the surface. And I need you guys to come along for the ride. You have to be a part of it, and you'll see what that means when the announcement comes out. But I want you, as an educated group of people, to read between the lines and look at the history of what I've been doing over the past couple years and get a sense for what the hell I'm getting ready to do. If you guys come along for the ride, it's going to be pretty fantastic. I'll leave you with one thing. My job has only just begun on this subject matter, and there's some big shit planned, and I'm excited about it. Just remember that whatever happens in the civilian world, it's game on. Okay? Remember that. Thank you, and have a good night.
All right. So you hear the announcement about this promise that's going to happen in 60 days, or it's probably less than that now. It's about a week since. So, you know, we hear it, most of us in research hear this a lot. And of course, a lot of people are, you know, giving Tom right now the benefit of the doubt, which everybody should get their chance. But, you know, I always say grain of salt, wait until they present, you know, be involved, follow him on social media and find out what he's going to talk about in 60 days or 50 or 54 or whatever it is now. And see what happens. If it's something different, if Tom has been exposed to what we've been exposed to as researchers, then maybe he knows what he's doing. If he hasn't, then maybe he might be like everybody else who's promised something grand and fell short. But we'll see. You know, benefit of the doubt, open mind, be objective, and see what kind of data he presents. Now, you know, he has had access to some high-ranking officials. You know, some people say you shouldn't trust that, and some people say that it's good. It's hard to tell. So we'll have to, you know, keep our thinking caps on when this happens. Now, Dinah, go ahead and let me turn down my audio real quick. Go ahead and jump on and give us a little bit of insight about the Secret Machines book that you've been reading. You're about 2/3 through, right?
Well, no, I'm about 50% through. But what I found interesting is, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, is my nephew who lives in Poway, California. He comes every year to Inglewood and we go fishing. And he says, oh, by the way, I have this friend that I've known for years, and his name is Tom DeLonge. And I go, okay, that meant absolutely nothing to me. And then he says, yes, you've got to read his books. And so he sent me the link to his book called Secret Machines, and I had to really buy it. It was $10 on Kindle. So I have it, and I started reading it. And basically, it's what Morgan already spoke about and what was said in Tom's intro, that he had access or he claims to high-ranking people, and he got information based on the fact that he presented himself. He was out there and linked up with these people, and he wrote this fictionalized story. Now, when you start this book, it will take a while to get into it because he has 5 different characters, and it's told from their point of view, and they are from as far away as Argentina, even all the way back to the 40s. So I'm at the point where we're just building the story. I'm trying to sort out all the characters, so I don't know the ending yet. But I'm kind of like Morgan. I'm waiting to see what's going to happen in 60 days where everything comes out on social media. Now, hopefully, because I am connected to my nephew, and if he still loves me, he will let me know something ahead of time. So we'll wait and see. So Morgan, back to you.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see these kinds of things. Yes, Tom DeLonge does have an advantage where he has some stardom to his name and some money and time. And so, he was in a very popular group, alternative rock or punk rock, and, made his fortune, and pretty much is a full-time ufologist. Wouldn't that be great? And we'll see what he's done with his time and his dedication. And, he's not a stupid person. I know that. I know from people who know him personally. One individual that used to be in Open Minds talks with him a lot, and he trusts him to make the right decision. But he said, just wait and see, and decide for yourself. So we'll see. I want to show you something else as we move on to the next item here. It was a video that came out not too long ago from Mexico. It was caught on I guess like a webcam, and coming across one of the major cities, I believe Mexico City. And I could be wrong. There's very little detail in the story. There's some people still looking at it, and but I do want to show you really quickly the video that has kind of hit the wave here. So I'll set up the scene here. So you can see here a mountain range. From the looks of it, if it is Mexico City, that would be probably the volcano that's there. It kind of resembles that, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. So let's go ahead and show you the video as I talk about it. So they just show, and let me turn off the audio. So they do show this small dot come up over the horizon, and kind of appears over the mountain range and slowly kind of creeps up, and then it gets faster and faster, I guess, as it gets closer. So this could be two things. Something really high up, upper atmosphere, coming over the curvature of the Earth, and then entering the atmosphere a little bit and burning up, and then eventually going off. Now, you can have meteorites or large meteorites, even asteroids, that can skim our atmosphere and burn very brightly, and then skip off into space again if they get close enough. And that's one hypothesis on this. The other hypothesis is that it's a close-by object, which is a aircraft that turns its landing lights or its forward-facing lights on as it gets closer. Right now, you just see its tail or wing lights at a distance, and then the front lights are turned on. Could be. We don't have a very good video quality of it, but you can see that the two possibilities are there. And the reason why we don't know is because we don't have reference. We never saw it actually come in contact with the mountain range. And so we don't know if it's actually coming from behind the mountain range or if it's coming from somewhere foreground, like a helicopter or an aircraft or a plane, and it's closer. And it could be moving at thousands upon tens of thousands of miles per hour, or it's at hundreds of miles per hour. But we don't have the enough information on this sighting to make any reference to it. If it were a meteorite, a large meteorite, let me get back to my mug here. I mean, if we do know that it's a meteorite, then there's a lot more witnesses to this event. I guarantee you, a lot of people on those roads, those streets, this is Mexico, so a lot of people do have those dash cams. It caught on more film than this. If it's not, and a lot of people don't report it, and there aren't other videos, then it's likely a a smaller aircraft. But I found it interesting anyway. Is a Holiday Inn there, and it even says there Pueblo La Nabra, no, Noria, or something like that. So it's not Mexico City. Maybe it isn't. I don't know. Who knows? It's one of those things where we get these videos. This wasn't reported to MUFON, but it just hit social media quite a bit. So we'll see if anything develops out of that, and maybe next time we have our live stream, we will definitely be talking about it. So, let's see here. So we want to hit on some of the old stories a little bit real quickly. We did, there was no further really development with the, what was it, Dinah? What was that story on? It was on the, what city was that? That was the Chilean UFO video, which everybody has a big debate on. And one of the requests made was a request from a think tank, an independent think tank that's working with a few people here in the States, to get a hold of the original video, to be able to analyze the GPS coordinates, the tracking data that's on the video. The original video that we showed during the event did not actually show those items. They were blacked out. They were redacted. And there's issue with that because that's the telemetry data that we need in order to do the analysis. So we can use GPS coordinates, we can use the angle of the camera, we can use all that data and speed of the aircraft, all that stuff to be able to show or see what the possibilities are. Right now, the verdict is out that it's another aircraft at a very far distance, but there's still some missing data, some missing holes. It could be could be an unknown. We just don't have enough data to make one side or the other decision. Now, there is correlating data that was released that there were aircraft at about 60 miles to 50 miles out from that aircraft, but we still don't know exactly the information we need to be able to do proper analysis. So it's still up in the air. So if anything comes up and I hear from some people that they're actually working on something, I'll definitely let you guys know. But it's an interesting case to work on. Along with this, if this one develops, it would be interesting to see if other witnesses saw it and other cameras caught it. Just like the Russian meteorite, which was just caught on multiple cameras, and it was just an extraordinary event that we rarely get to see. So we'll move on. Dinah, do we have any comments from the last live stream?
The last live stream, I wanted to thank David Ring because he was very instrumental in presenting some good questions to you, Morgan. He asked you about maybe another separate website where we could have discussions with presenters and everything like that. And you said that was a good idea, so maybe something you'll be thinking about in the future. But what's nice, if any of you have any comments, send them to us because we will respond. If we don't get to them this month, we'll definitely respond and get to you next month. Anything that you want us to talk about, hear about, here is the time. This is your time to connect with us.
Yeah, no doubt. And, just going down some of the comments and, really appreciate you guys getting involved. We want you guys to make comments. We want you to express your opinions. That's why we have you there. I know in the chat room, I don't know if you're able to pull that up. You have people in there, Dinah. I probably forgot to remind you to do that. Sorry.
Oh, no. We've been chatting right along.
Goody. And, we had several people, Steven, talked about a sighting they had back in 2006 in Lake County, Florida. And he reported to the National Reporting Center, which is fine. And I think, hey, we encourage people to report it also to our database so we can compare notes. It's a good thing. Diane, frequent to our meetings. I know David Ring comes to some of the meetings up north there, right? If I'm correct. So we have people that are actually involved in some of our meetup, and if you guys get a chance, go over to meetup.com, look Florida-MUFON, we're right there. Just join us, and we have everything listed, including our live streams. So all our information is there, and we put all our meetings throughout Florida. We always move the little thing around that tells us where the event or where our meetup is located, but our meetup is really the entire state of Florida. So don't get discouraged if it's like in Miami one day and now in Lakeland or in Fort Myers or Tampa, we just move it around because it's designed for a local thing, but we use it for the entire state. So even Diane actually made some positive comments. They like the involvement here in the live streams. Linda Revere, thank you for your comments. We really appreciate it. And we also had a negative comment, which I'm okay with. They didn't like our disposition on the Greer sighting, which, I totally understand. People are allowed to express their opinion. I'm not going to edit away just because it's negative for what we said or how we presented the information. But it's your opinion. We were accused of being a little bit too sarcastic, but really it was an inside joke. We weren't laughing at Greer. We were laughing at something that we were involved in separate from that. But again, clarifying, I did respond. So if you guys want to read those responses in the YouTube channel, there's some good information that I put in, and feel free, Flyrail or whoever your real name is, to present counter data to prove your point. Dialogue needs to occur. You can't not be challenged, and I'm okay with being challenged, and I think you should be too. So, in turn, feel free to come back with a counter argument in a very civil manner. In no way would we be slandering anybody, and that's not our intention when we disagree with something that goes on. And in this case, the case that happened over there on the east coast of Florida at Vero Beach with the Greer incident, we definitely feel we have enough information to say that it was a misidentified event at the minimum. And that's what we're going to stick to. And yes, we will present it. We do need to present it, and I agree with you. It's just not on our priority list because it wasn't a MUFON case. So, but anyway, feel free to make comments and feel free to make counter arguments to things that you disagree with something we say, and we're completely open to that. If we weren't, then we would be wasting our time. We would have to hear the counter arguments to these things because that's the only way dialogue works. That's the only way science works. That's what we do. So feel free to make comments and keep them coming in, keep watching, and again, everything you guys say, we're completely good. If I will talk about it, I will be open about it. Just try to keep it clean, and as long as you keep it clean, we're fine. Minus with Tom DeLong using the S word. Sorry, I had no idea. But that's what happens with grown-ups sometimes when they get excited. So moving on, tonight we're going to be talking about the top cases of 2016. We had kind of a short list this year, and maybe one of the episodes later we'll be going over like 2015 and 14 because we had some really interesting cases there. In fact, John has one kind of on the border of 2016-15, so he'll get into that a little bit later. So I want to, if you're prepared, Tom, I want to do you first. Since you're the first person that sent me your presentation, you actually sent me a nice little PowerPoint here, and I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. And feel free to tell me to switch slides, whatever you need to do. This is very casual. We want people to get a sense of the cases that you guys work on, and we may have some questions between each of these events. And then at the end, people in the chat, please feel free to type in your questions. Dinah's watching. She'll keep log of some important questions. Get involved. And if you have questions, specifics, mention the case number and who is working on it. This one's going to be Tom. Feel free to make those comments and questions, and we'll try to get to them at the end of the presentations, all of them. So we want to try to keep moving along so you guys get all that information up front. And if those who want to stick around for the Q&A session, we'll have that time at the end. So go ahead, Tom. I'm going to go ahead and I'll play your presentation.
All righty.
Let me just give me a thumbs up because my screen completely disappears when I push the play button. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, but feel free to let me know if things disappear. Okay. So so here we go. You can see your presentation. I'm going to go ahead and push play on it. So does everything look good to you guys?
It looks good.
All right. You can see the slides pretty clearly, or no?
Yeah, I can. It's just fine.
Okay, I'll just do this then. Because
Can
when
you play it as a presentation?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. So let me just play the whole screen. So the reason why is that it's switching screens. You know, when these when PowerPoint decides which screen it wants, it just decides. So let me switch it up here. Sorry, guys. You know, this is technical. We're always learning stuff here. Let me go ahead and share my other screen, which is probably going to throw everybody through a loop, but that's okay. It's temporary. So there. Whoa, infinity. So we can talk physics later, but don't look too far in. You might get sucked into the black hole. Hold on a second. Okay. Does that show your single slide now?
Very, very good. That's very
all right. Good. Now we're gold. So go ahead, Tom.
Okay. This is a case that happened last year, and what I kind of like about it is I do have multiple witnesses in it, and just a real quick over of what it is.
Yeah,
And it just it just left the screen. I had a witness, 18 years old. She was leaving work and driving down what we call River Road. It's in Orange Park, Florida. And as she went down River Road, she was looking across the St. Johns River, and she saw what she felt to be a triangular object. She was getting very near where she had to make a turn to be on Kingsley Avenue. When she got at that point, this object from all the way across the river, which I would estimate to be in about 3 miles, jumped directly over top of her vehicle. She looked at the underbelly of the vehicle and it scared her. She got a really good description of it. She continued driving. There's a lot of trees in this area, and she lost view of it as she went down into the lights along Kingsley Avenue. She continued through the red light on Kingsley Avenue, and she was going to stop at a bank, which she did. She passed the road to where she turns into her house and continued on Kingsley Avenue. Went to the bank, came out of the bank, went back up. She lives. I've lost the presentation. Is that okay? I see it at the bottom, but I don't see it.
No, you're fine. You're fine. You're looking at our screen, so everybody at home still sees it. So I had to switch my mic off. I have myself on mute, so you're good to go, Tom. Just keep going.
Okay,
I'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, well, I don't see the presentation, is why.
Morgan, we keep losing it on the YouTube channel.
No, guys, it works fine. It's on the channel. It's because I have to turn it off every time you guys talk to me because I have to pull this screen up. So it should be fine. So I'll share again. Is that okay? Can you guys hear me? You're good to go? Hello?
No, we don't have it on the YouTube channel yet.
Yeah, I don't have the presentation of it.
Okay. I'm going to share it again.
We have you.
Okay. Now I'm going to put it on.
There we go. This is a drawing that the young witness drew of the object she saw. It's drawn by the witness of the underbelly of the triangular object, 2 blue lights in the rear. And they were slowly going to a yellow, then back to blue. She stated that the front had a red light and it remained red. There is also a large round shape in the center of the underbelly. Okay. Whoop.
You good to go?
Yes. There's some anonymous characteristics of the object. Witness 1 described it as rapid acceleration. She saw the object across the St. Johns River, then it almost instantaneously was directly overhead. There was no sound. It was silent flight. It had the ability to hover and move slowly, emitted a beam of light, had no emissions. Now my second witness, almost undetectable, but he could make out the three lights, and he says they're really soft lights. The object was within treetop level. There was no emissions, and it was absence of sound. And this object that they saw was very large. It was about the size of a passenger jet. In looking through MUFON's database, I found a sighting back in November of 2012. It was also near the Jacksonville Naval Air Station. And in this case, the object was moving at a high rate of speed at a high altitude. And the witness stated that this object, it seemed to be split into 6 sections. And I find that a little bit similar to what my witness described it. If you'll move to the next screen. If I took the underbelly and made each one of her little figures that she had drawn, and I came up with 6 sections, and I thought that was just a little bit very similar, you know, and so I've never heard that one, you know, it was split into 6 sections. Okay. This is just a map of the area, and one thing I would like for you to see how close this object is to Jacksonville Naval Air Station. It's within a mile. The bottom is where she first saw the object come across the St. Johns River. That's Kingsley Avenue where she drove down. She came back. She saw this object again as she came back up from making her transaction at the bank. And when she turned on the DeBerry Avenue, and that's the location where she lives, she picked this object up again. And at that time, she says she's compelled to follow it, that she felt compelled. She followed it all the way down to DeBerry. DeBerry runs into Wells Road. She turned right on Wells Road, followed it up Wells Road, and she had to stop at the red light at the intersection on 17, State Route 17. This is where she felt or saw a very bright light flash inside her car. And at this point, she was scared, and she turned at this point to the right and went back home. My second witness is a firefighter, and he was coming off of 295 on the Blanding Boulevard. And just after you turn off there on Blanding, you can turn on the Wells Road. He turned on the Wells Road, and he was headed in the same direction as witness 1. And as he got up close, and this is all happening at almost exactly the same time, he sees this object also, and it's very slow. It's going across 295, and it is going in the direction of Jacksonville Naval Station. Okay. Other sightings in the area with similar characteristics. We had a sighting in 2014. A witness states it was the size of a jet. Very close, 21 to 100 feet. The witness states the object was at treetop level and almost drove underneath it. It hovered. It was silent, triangle in appearance with red and blue blinking lights on each side, and a yellow light in the rear and a large bright light in the front, which I found was also fairly similar to this case 79478. And there's been numerous sightings of triangular objects in this area and in Florida over the past several years. There's numerous reports with triangular objects emitting a light or a beam. There's a famous, I guess, report in the state of Illinois. This UFO case involved the sighting of a huge unidentified triangular-shaped UFO by police officers and others in the early morning hours of January 5th, 2000 over the state of Illinois. The officers from a number of small Illinois towns were able to track the unknown object and maintain radio contact with each other during the event. And their in-depth testimonies have been fully documented by investigators. And that's just a artistic reconstruction of the sighting at the bottom there. Okay. This is just something I was comparing it to. There's a great possibility. There's a lot of speculation, but there's something called the TR-3 Black Manta, and it was said to be a subsonic stealth spy plane with a flying wing design. It was also alleged to have been used in the Gulf War to provide laser designations for Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk bombers. It's for targeting to use with laser-guided bombs. The TR-3 was claimed to have been manufactured by Northrop. And because there's no evidence to support the TR-3B existence, only sightings and experienced stories by real people, it's possible that the mysterious flying wing sighting associated with Black Manta could be a technology demonstrator for a potentially new generation technical reconnaissance aircraft. This contention is also supported by the United States Air Force back in 1980 by confirming that the United States had no short-term plans to develop a low observable U-2 successor.
All right.
Okay.
Let me unshare my infinite.
Okay. And, you know, something else that I was looking into, back in 1967, a plane left Jacksonville Airport, and there was 3 pilots and a passenger on the plane. When it got over the Atlantic, they also encountered a large triangular object, ended up emitting a beam. But I thought that was kind of, you know, associating the same thing all the way back to 67 in this area.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's been I mean, obviously, everybody here has probably worked on a strange triangle case. I know I have of several over here on Venice Beach. And also recently near, you know, Sarasota and all counties along the eastern seaboard where we have these large chevron or triangle-shaped craft moving completely silently, and but being visible to witnesses on the ground. So, yeah, it's definitely the most consistent of late type sightings. A strong military, I guess, or DoD connection because of its, you know, constant, I guess, association with locations of Air Force bases, naval stations. But we're here in Florida; we've got tons of those. So. But yeah, and some of them are just really strange. I know, like the one that Carl Paulson worked on back not too long ago. In fact, the story's on our website. Doesn't seem like one of ours at all because of what was witnessed. So it's kind of a mixed bag, you know. It's just a good design, I guess. But yeah, no, thank you, Tom. We'll be answering some questions for those towards the end if we get some in, and thanks for sharing that, Tom. Definitely.
Thank you.
So let's go on to the next one. I know I have another presentation here. Kind of going to go down the list here. Dinah, you have a PowerPoint that you supplied. I'm going to go ahead and go with yours next. And you know, let's see where this goes. So you're on mute right now because I put you on mute because I was hearing your typing. So if you get a chance, unmute your mic and say hello to the world.
My typing was because I was talking to all these people on YouTube.
Oh, that's good. That's awesome. No, that's fine. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen. So, you know, keep talking because your mug is on there now. And give us a little idea of what now this isn't really a case. This is something you're working on in 2016. You really started digging into it this year. Sort of, we always encourage our state section directors to work on some good local cases or some historical events that happen in their areas to get to know their area. And Dinah, this is one that you're doing on the PineCastle impact Marion County, Florida area, right?
Yes, that's correct. The case that I am working up with the aid of several people in the Gainesville area actually happened in 1978, and it is a historical case. But we're putting all our data together because it is a case that has been written about quite a bit. And then we will have what we call a CMS number assigned to it later in the year. But in a moment, we're going to see the first slide that's going to show the bombing range here in South Marion County. And it is a live bombing range, one of the very few in the United States where live bombs are let loose on a regular basis. Anyone that lives in this area in Marion County, we just had a whole week of live bombing, and it will shake our house. You will hear the jets go over. If there's a cloud cover, they fly lower. And it's amazing amount of air traffic just over the area I live in. But this is what it looks like from the Google Earth. Now, you can see some trails around there. I have walked some of this area. It's actually kind of across from Alexander Springs in the forest. So you cannot get, obviously I can't walk up to the bombing area, but there it is. Do you see the military, go back, Morgan, do you see the military helicopters? And you'll see them picking up debris. When we do walk the trails in that area, we do have picked up bomb fragments that have, been imploded or exploded years ago. But let me tell you about the case. I'm going to show you a lot of media coverage. You won't be able to read it, but I just want to give you the impression about what was written. Morgan, go 2 slides ahead, please.
Yep, I'm there. It's delayed.
Okay.
But it's there.
Okay, one more.
Oh, one more. I'm sorry. I'm bad.
The Stars and Stripes, a military publication, first published the article May 19th, 1978, even though the event was on May 14th. Since I'm in Ocala, the Ocala Star-Banner is our only newspaper, and there was a lot of articles about it. And what the main thrust of these articles is that the radar picked up something. And that's where the big contention is, what did the radar pick up? So there was a story in the Ocala Star-Banner, there was a story in the Stars and Stripes, and then also there was another story about the UFO. If we go one more, UFOs were tracked by Navy men. But here is the gist of the story. Then also NICAP sent its people down here. You can move. Well, it'll move forward in a moment. So NICAP sent down its people, and they had a full investigation. And at the point they did their investigation, they were able to get radar returns. This was written up in the NICAP, and Bill was kind enough to, since he's a NICAP person, he was able to get me this article. All these articles basically tell the same story about the lights that night. The next article that's going to pop up, like I said, these will all be part of the case when we finally get it all together, is it was investigated and found out that it was given a high ranking of 5, which means the highest strangeness. Now, every time they talk about PineCastle, it's either called the electronic warfare range, or it's called the bombing range, or it's called the radar impact range. It has so many different names, but it all talks about this radar. Now, those radar returns, I am looking for them actively. They are being held by an organization up in Chicago. I have asked for those because I would like to make copies of those to be part of the report. They're simply going to tell the story that is going to be shown on the next slide. Here's what happened the night of May 14th. At 2200 hours, the duty officer receives a call from an unidentified woman. The woman was located at Silver Glen, which is about 5 or 6 miles north of PineCastle on State Road 19. She was on Lake George at a campground called Silver Glen. Now, what's interesting about Lake George, you can see that it's 11 miles long, it's 6 miles wide, and some of the depths are 8 foot. The witness says that she asked, "Are you dropping parachute flares?" Because in our area, if they're either bombing or dropping, there's always something going on. And what's interesting, in 1978, we're dealing with landlines, so that this must be such a regular basis that this witness could just readily call up the duty officer. There must have been a working relationship because of all the noise and all the racket the bombing range would cause for this area. So she says, "Are you dropping flares?" And the witness says, "There's strange red, green, and white lights above the trees over the west bank of Lake George." Then she hangs up. 10 minutes later, at 22:10, a second call comes from an unknown male asking if the range is open. And the caller plus 8 other people observed an object they claim is 50 to 60 feet in diameter pass over treetop level. And the objects, by the second witness, are displaying multiple colored lights. The caller hangs up. Now, so all of a sudden, the control tower decides that they need to, search the area. So they get their binoculars out. And while they're at it, then they go ahead and wake up the radar man from his barracks, which means he's going to take 20 minutes to warm up the radar because it's not turned on. So now we've got them looking through binoculars. They see the lights. They don't know what it is. They're waiting for the guy to get out of bed, wander over to the radar, turn it on. So now, it may have taken 20 minutes for it to warm up, but we're probably talking about 30 minutes. Now, these lights are still being seen, and then they start getting these blips from the northwest to the south, moving at 400 to 500 knots, which is 460.31 to 575 miles per hour. So there is a lot. They're moving very quickly. The radar man does catch them, the blips on his radar. They watch it for about another hour. Then it is over with. They write up a report, and the report is submitted. They did also call Jacksonville to see if there was any air traffic, and Jacksonville said negative. There was no air traffic in the area. Now what happens is the UFO reporter comes out, Hynek comes down, and he does a big report, and he writes up page after page of not historical radar data in his UFO reporter. So when you read the article, it talks point by point about how the radar equipment works, what kind of model it was, and all this technical information. But the second part of the report, which would have come to the conclusion of what they concluded, was never published. So when I asked the people up in Illinois, where's the second part, they have no idea. They can't find that data. So I'm hoping to find that file. Now, if you go to the internet, there are countless articles about this sighting. There is nothing conclusive. In the UFO Reporter, there's a battle between several of the old-time ufologists. They're very dedicated researchers fighting about the radar returns. Now, Morgan is getting ready to show you a picture of a sketch. This witness is in our CMS, and she made a report in 2010. Now, the case happened in 1978. In her case, we think this might be related to what was seen. She claims that she was out and about driving in the woods, and she saw this sketch of what she saw. Now, I'm actively looking for this witness. Like I said, 2010, the phone number doesn't work, the email doesn't work. And so this is what we're doing now. We are looking to see if we can get the witnesses that were there, the 8 to 9 witnesses that were at the park. So this is what's happening in this investigation. Pulling the paperwork, and the new layer of data we want to put on is finding these witnesses. Now, what I have also done is I have emailed the Ocala Star-Banner saying this is the 39th year of this sighting. How about doing a repeat story? And maybe they might get excited and bring something to the table. I've also asked our local lieutenant in our district to see if he can tell me about something that happened with these lights. And of course, he blew me off and said, oh, I wasn't around and whatever. So I've gone back to the table, came up with another angle, and have emailed him about that. We also have posted posters in the Salt Springs area, which is north of Silver Glen, asking for help on this. So before we put all our data, we're going to try to find through social media any of these witnesses. Hopefully a witness will come forward. What I'm looking for is that sketch. I don't think I can, and hopefully I can also get out of the people up north those original folders. So why are we doing this? Because this case has never been put together. It is an important Florida case, an important case for this area, and this is what we do. A lot of us state directors have our pet cases, and we take the time to research and put them together, and then it will become, as Morgan is saying, it'll be one of the Florida cases for 2016. But I'm not going to put it together because once I want to have it all together before I do it, and then we will present probably about a 30-page white paper on the whole case when we finally have all the data and run down all the leads that we can.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to that one and helping out with that. I think that would be such a neat very good contribution to the litany of cases that we have in this state. And again, we'll take a lot of everybody's questions at the end. I want to get through some more cases here from each of these section directors and some special guest investigators that we have on the show with us today. So, but let me go to our state, our chief investigator, John, and give us an idea of some of the cases that you've worked on and some of the highlighted cases that you've done. And of course, we talked about them earlier. So take it away, John.
Okay, this case was from St. Cloud. For those who don't know where it is, it's just east of Kissimmee. This was back in April of 16. There was a elderly lady. I say elderly, she's 73 years old and she's retired. She has a year of college, and she had a sighting, and she said it took her brain a couple of seconds to kind of grasp what it was she was seeing. She had taken her dog out. She said it was almost dark, and she was on the front porch when her peripheral vision on the right caught something, and she turned and looked, and coming from the side of her house, she initially described it as a circle. She said she saw a circle. Upon talking with her and getting a little bit more information, it was actually a saucer-shaped object, the classic saucer-shaped object. And she said it was about 200 feet in diameter. It was at treetop level and moving at about 5 miles per hour. She said it never changed altitude. It never changed direction. It never changed speed. About 5 miles an hour, just cruising over the treetops. She said that there were windows in it all the way around it. She thought there was about 20. And she could see a light behind the windows, but she couldn't see anything in the windows. She also said there were lights around the bottom of it, and she guessed it was probably about 20 of them. Now, these lights were not shining down like a spotlight trying to light up the ground. They were just lights that were illuminated on this object. And she said she stood there after her brain finally registered what she was looking at. And she stood there and watched it until it disappeared over the treetops. It was headed on an easterly or northeasterly course, I guess. And she watched it till it disappeared. Now, in our meetup group, we have a retired gentleman who said that he worked for the CIA in the technology department. My first thought when I was investigating this case was that this object was probably one of ours, something we had in our inventory, and it was anti-gravity propulsion. So I discussed this with him, and he stated, well, we've been working on anti-gravity propulsion for years, but we're not there yet. Now, that was his statement, and he said he is up to date, even though he's retired. He said he still gets a weekly update from the CIA that keeps him up to date on current technology. And he says, we don't have anything like that. I disagree with him. I think we do. It's my own personal feelings. I think that we do have that in our inventory, not only from things I've read, things I've seen, but things I've observed in other cases. So we just left it at that. I did end up closing the case as an unknown aerial vehicle, about the best we could do. And the case was back far enough that I couldn't go on to Flight Radar 24 to see if it showed anything there. But I don't believe it would have anyway. So that was about it on that case. Let me see. I had one from Diane. Did you want to discuss that one, Morgan?
Yeah, go ahead. Diane Law, which is one of your field investigators.
Right.
And probably a case I'll definitely have her come on at a later date, to really get into the meat of the case and to take some time. But yeah, go ahead and mention what that case is.
Okay. Diane is in Georgia right now. She has family up there. Her son-in-law is in the Navy. Is that called Kings Point? Is that what it is? I think Kings Point.
Yeah, I think
Naval
so.
base, submarine base.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Kings Bay. Kings
Kings
Bay.
Bay. That's right. Kings Bay. Her son-in-law is there in the Navy, and so she went up to visit, which is why she's not here tonight. She investigated the case. It was two witnesses they were in a small town, I guess on the beach, near the North Florida, South Georgia state line. They saw a cylinder/disc-shaped craft and claimed it was being escorted by two military helicopters. They said that they could see this by the reflection of the moon, and it was approximately 2/3 the length and height of the MH-60 Seahawk helicopters that were escorting it. When she discussed with the witnesses what they meant by cylinder and disc, and she said, why did you say cylinder/disc? And he said, well, because they were both round. So it was unclear at that point, but it finally was settled upon that it was probably a cylinder-shaped object. She did a lot of investigation on it and was unable to come up with anything. We looked at the possibility. One of the first things was, could the first one have been towing it and the second one also attached to it to keep this thing up? And we decided that's just not physically possible. Helicopters cannot do that. If they were going to move something, it would have been lifted from below due to the shape of the helicopters and their rotors. So that part was ruled out, and she came up with unidentified aerial vehicle as her conclusion on that. Hopefully she will, as Morgan said, be able to give us some more information on that when she gets back at one of our next get-togethers here. And she can go into some detail into her investigation.
Yeah, no doubt. And, it's interesting, too, because I was talking to Ralph Howard, who's the state director of Georgia. And, they've had actually a couple of those cases where they've had, the Chinook-type aircraft, tagging along with some object in between the two or in front of the objects or the helicopters. Now, a lot of people say, and I've talked to a lot of military people. I've talked to Richard Hoffman, state director of Mississippi, or I'm sorry, Alabama, and he's had some experience as a contractor in the military, and Chinook helicopters don't conduct like combat missions, so they don't really, for the most. I mean, they do. They transport troops. They can transport materials, but they're known as a utility or a transport helicopter. So in this case, typically if there's an unknown, right, an unknown object, they don't send Chinooks to go intercept a unknown aircraft. They'll probably go and send F-16s or F-22s after an unknown aircraft. So it's likelihood that the pilots or the mission involved with these types of helicopters probably have control of a situation with this unknown object. And these are definitely strange, moving, weird objects that are being seen. Some people argue, well, maybe they're tethered and you just don't see it and it's at night. But a lot of these cases, the object's a pretty good distance in front of the helicopters, according to witness testimony and drawings and such that have been submitted to us. So a lot of correlating cases up near the Georgia border, of course, down here in Florida as well. And it's interesting to see that they're consistently seeing this, and it could be some sort of drone program, and it may be true unknowns being escorted. We just don't know. But hopefully one day we'll get a better situation with more witnesses, maybe even a good video or two. So, but neat, very interesting, John. Very very solid cases. I'll come back to you, John. I'm going to go over to Bill. And Bill Schroeder, State Section Director of Tampa Bay Area, a couple of counties there. Go ahead and give us a rundown of what you're going to talk about. What case are you worked on in 2016 that you thought was of great interest?
Yeah, good evening, everybody, and glad you're all here. This is case number 73810. This was January of 2016. January 11th, so it's another one that was barely in 2016, and this was a MUFON case that I got assigned, and then the original report was rather vague. It was a commercial pilot, and when I finally did get a chance to talk to him, he was, I had to make a lot of promises about his airline and his position and where he was at the time of the sighting. So we got all that out of the way, and as I was talking to him, I was bringing up the history of Flight Radar 24 and making sure that what he was telling me was consistent with the data that was up there. And let me share this with you here. Oh, I got nothing. That didn't work. Okay. Let's see here. Bear with me here.
Oh, we lost Bill. Well, it happens. So, technical difficulties. We'll come back to Bill when he grabs back on. Happens, every now and then. It just explodes and people disappear from the face of the earth. I don't know where Bill went. But no, he'll return. He probably a lot of buttons to push on these things sometimes, and I do the same thing. I cause it to crash. Anyway, let me go back to John real quick. John, you had a kind of a case, not really 2016-ish, but you had a case. Well, oh, here Bill's back. Hey, Bill, we'll come right back to you once you get that shared up on the screen. I'll come right back to you. Okay, bud. So, John, go ahead and share us with the case you wanted to share about. And, this is kind of a tease because I'm going to have John come back on and do a UFO case profile on this in real depth. So give us a summary, John, on this case that you worked on.
This case was towards the end of 2015. It was one of the first cases I worked on as a field investigator, and it occurred about 3 miles from where I live in the same town. Woman woke up one morning in bed with her husband. She woke up, from a flashing light. Yellow, white, and orange, she described the colors, and it was pulsating around her wooden blinds on her window. And she said she woke up her husband, who promptly headed for the bathroom and locked the door behind him because he doesn't believe in UFOs. She said a blue scanning light came out of the wall across from her, scanned around the room. And when it got to the window, it just disappeared. She said it did not go out the window. It just wasn't there anymore. There's a lot of investigation that went into that, including the use of a Geiger counter and a trail cam, trying to get some further evidence / information. There was some missing time on her video camera, her security video camera. When there's a power loss and the camera goes off, she said it does not come back on by itself. You have to manually turn it on. Yet during the time of this incident, her security camera went off and then came back on after the incident was over. So that's a basic of what happened. And we will, as Morgan said, we will get into maybe about an hour's worth of all the details, because it goes a whole lot deeper than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are some of the close encounter cases that we have. In fact, I have a similar one with lights and red lights in this case. Same kind of scenario. Of course, the significant other, or in this case, the wife of the witness I worked with, didn't know about the incident and kind of, was standoffish at first, but then started to come forward also about what they have experienced, but not wanting to tell the husband, and husband not wanting to tell the wife because they thought they were crazy. And so they just never knew each other knew about it. So, neat, really crazy close encounter cases we do get on occasion. Thanks for sharing that, John. And we'll definitely be coming back to that case and kind of going in detail. So coming back to Bill, I'm going to, some reason, Bill's unselectable. For some reason, Bill, I can't even touch you. Hold on a second. Let's see here. What's going on with Bill? Hey, Bill, if you don't mind closing out yours and coming back, because there's something wrong with your camera. Yeah. So we'll get Bill back in. Some little bit of technical difficulties, which we, will have on occasion. But there is a case I do want to come into. I'm going to bring in Dan and Rebecca Renfro. Hopefully, I'm not, killing your last name there. And go ahead and unmute yourselves and talk to the world.
Hey, Morgan.
Ornament.
Hey, Morgan.
Sorry,
Hey,
Ornament.
Ornament. Okay. she's not used to it yet. She's not used to it yet either.
Hey, everybody.
Hi. This is a case that we were given back in January of 16. It is case number 74213. It's quite interesting. The lady, we spoke to this lady who was the witness and her young child. I'll read to you the detailed description from the CMS. It says, I was driving along I-75 when I spotted this seemingly stationary object. I used my daughter's monocular. Now, preface this, her daughter has a hearing problem, a sight problem, and uses a monocular, a single lens, as opposed to a binocular. So the mom took that. They were traveling on Interstate 75 at about 70 miles an hour. She quickly looked out the window to the right, had to roll the window down, and she saw an oval object through the monocular. So she's looking through a magnified image. And it said it had no familiar shapes or markings on the side of the object. Now, with that said, Morgan, do you want to pull up the 26-mile elevation view? Or I can share it, I believe. You want me to try?
Yeah, no, I can pull it up real quick.
Okay.
I got to pull. At least I got one of the images pulled up here. A couple of them actually. So.
Yeah. Well, the 26 mile is a good one. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, those are the
That's good. You got the pictures. That's
yeah.
good.
So these are the different images. They're roughly at the same. I think the 26 is one of the two, but this is the
the 26 mile view is a Google Earth view.
Oh, yeah.
Showing precisely where they were at when they snapped these pictures.
Yeah, is that a PDF? That was what you submitted to the CMS, correct?
No, it's JPEG.
Oh, it's a JPEG. Okay.
It's in the list.
Yeah, I'm looking.
There's quite a few.
But yeah, keep talking and I'll pull it up.
Okay. Well, at any rate, as I said, the lady and her child were driving north on Interstate 75 at mile marker 177. Now that is just north of Punta Gorda, where Interstate 75 is actually going at a diagonal of 45 degrees to the west and then goes due west for a period of 2 or 3 miles. That's one of the pictures that you've got on the screen.
Yep.
Yeah. That mile marker 77 is right there where the Interstate 75 bends and goes to the west. No, I don't think anybody can see my pointers, so I'm not gonna.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, and this is the West 75's right here, and
so with all of this, we started to review the pictures. So if you'd pull up one of the 4 images of what they actually saw, that one there is a good one. If you'd zoom into that.
There we go.
Okay, that's what her iPhone 6 saw. Now I got the actual.
I gotta pull it up on my screen. So here's the screen. Sorry, my bad.
Pardon me.
No, I didn't have it up on the live stream, so now I've got it on the live stream. So you're good to go. Now I got the image.
Yeah. Well,
just to review, and that was my fault. Again, I was paying attention to my screen and not what everybody else is seeing. Everybody's like, I can't see it.
Okay.
No worries.
Yeah.
This particular image is what an iPhone 6 took. Okay, so the iPhone 6 is a fairly decent camera for up close photos, but when you get out to a distance, it can't focus itself all that well. Oh, all of a sudden, Bill just popped in.
Oh, my bad. And I will undo. Yeah, again, technical difficulties.
That's all right.
There it is. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so it needs to be pointed out that the lady saw through the monocular a oval-shaped object, states right in the CMS that she put in. So what we're seeing there, to some people, looks like a lone cloud. Okay, well, I checked the weather. It was a completely cloudless day. So having a single cloud of that density, that dark on the bottom and that light on the top, is a stretch. So at this point, Rebecca got involved, and I'll let her tell you about that.
We did several things. It was a whole project with all of us involved. And I thank you, Morgan, you gave me a lot of instructions on what to do, who to call, and that's exactly what I did. And we had our photo analysis person, Mark, involved at the same time. He sent his analysis of what he believed it was. And after speaking with her, I followed through on what you said to do. And so I called Sarasota, Fort Myers, Punta Gorda, and MacDill. I didn't have a single problem with any person. In fact, the individual who gave me the most, along with Sarasota, was the operations noise abatement specialist. And he is the one with whom I had a great conversation. He was interested. All of them were interested in MUFON. And I didn't have any scuffles with anybody. No one turned me off. And about a half hour to 45 minutes.
No one's
with each person. So that was a wonderful surprise for me. And at this point, the operations noise abatement specialist sent back an informative piece and what he thought. So I had everything from an aerostat to a helicopter flying with excessive wings above it. And then the last one I got was from Sarasota, which you showed at the beginning as a complete unknown.
Yeah.
That's what was in the blip. So with that said, when we stayed in touch with this young woman and her child who had no problem talking to me. And that's where I'd like to give my 2 cents in this. Instead of being the technical person, I want to be somebody reaching out to someone who's listening. What Dan and I do is each night we watch a UFO program, a TV, we rent something, we buy something, we go on and watch everything that's out there, the UFO TVs, the hangars, everything, including the programs that are series. So we feel we can be better equipped and to give a list of things to people, particularly children, so that they can watch them with their parents.
And not be afraid.
And not be afraid.
Yeah.
So in this case, it's one of those times where she was interested and I gave her a list of videos to watch. We spoke again about 2 weeks later and she told me she had watched them all. And her child was in the background. Is that the UFO people? Tell them I'm okay. I just loved that, hearing that child's voice say that. As a teacher, that's what appeals to me. And that's more of what I wanted to share. And that was very helpful to her. So we went with the estimate. Dan and I went with it. It is an unknown. And that's how we
had some definite insight from a lot of people. John, of course, our fearless leader,
you bet.
helped
Hey, John.
a great deal. And Bill Schroeder, Wild Bill. We put together, if you can pull up one that's track submitted by airport, it's a PNG file.
Yeah, I'll get that pulled up while you guys talk. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Sarasota Bradenton Airport gentleman that we spoke to, or that Becky spoke to, sent us via email information about the track of what he called a possible, and that is some white helicopters that are training pilots in the Sarasota Bradenton Airport, and they fly out over that area. Now, the track that they gave me with GPS coordinates, I put that onto the Google Earth drawing here.
And this is the one you're talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, good.
And, you know, as best I could, that's approximately where it was. But look at the speed. It says 33 knots. Now, I believe if my math is right, that's somewhere around 40 miles an hour, I believe.
Yeah, pretty slow.
Yeah, it's pretty slow. So it's not an airplane. They tend to fall out of the sky when they go that slow. So, you know, it's a potential helicopter. But she looked at it with the monocular and saw a definite oval-shaped object. So at this point, we turned it in as a unknown. It's been called a possible aerostat, which is a military version of a blimp. It wasn't Shamu, you know, flying down there. So
now this is where I'd like to interject on one of the phone calls that I'm sure the men, I'm seeing everybody on the bottom of the screen there, and Terry, you too as well, that when you're talking to someone, particularly at MacDill, and again, very open, I'm going to put you through to this one and that one, but just be aware that they're not going to be able to tell you everything. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I know, Morgan, you asked me to do was to find out about where it might have taken off. And that's one of the things that was kept at a distance, at an arm's distance pretty well. Either they didn't know and they were honest about it, or they said, I'm sorry, but I really can't tell you. And if I could, I still can't. So that had to do with their takeoff, and if it was an aerostat. However, when I kept going back to the witness, she said that the silver and that there weren't markings and that there wasn't anything going on, and that's kind of what the child. I go back to the witnesses and what they used and what they said, and looking at other photographs that might be similar that have been verified by others, but I don't want to negate Mark's extensive expertise also as a photo analysis person.
So there you are.
There we are.
Awesome. No, I think that's you know, it's a really interesting case. You know, I always tell people that not all cases have to be extraordinarily bizarre to be interesting to work on. This case is definitely on the fence. You know, you have different opinions, but it's still an interesting case. It's still an unknown. I mean, we don't know what it is. We have ideas what it might have been. It could have been, like you said, like a stray blimp from the military even. But it's still a strange event. These people saw something that didn't belong there, at least not usual. It's still an unknown. We always tell people, you know, I had this heavy skeptic guy come and challenge me with my top most favorite cases that I've ever worked on. And I threw a few cases that I really did like working on, which ended up being IFO or on the fence type cases because they were so complex, so many witnesses, so much dynamic to it that I found it interesting to work on. And it kind of surprised a few people because they thought all I was going to do was report a bunch of, you know, ET UFOs, which is true. I mean, I think those are, you know, the true unknowns are very difficult to prove, and I think they're great to work on it. But I still love these cases too, where you have all these factors involved, and it's just a really interesting, bizarre case with this strange, very visible object in the middle of the day. And I think this is a testament to those types of cases.
It was at 12 noon, actually.
Yeah.
So
middle of the day.
Yeah. Couldn't get any brighter than that.
Not at all. Not at all. So we're just waiting on Bill
Thank
to
you all.
back in. Yeah, no, thank you, Dan and Rebecca. You're up there in Lakeland, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So you're up there and you know, and I think you know, Lakeland is actually a really neat area. It's got the aviation all over the place there. You've got what is it? The one of the largest air shows.
Sun and Fun.
Yeah, Sun and Fun.
Yep, the Sun and Fun event.
In fact, Oshkosh of the South.
Yeah,
that's what they call it.
And you're up there with Terry, and that's her section.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's great. So, well, it looks like Bill's back on, so I'm going to attempt. It looks like we lost some people. We're going to attempt to get Bill back on here. I think since he dropped, you know, it automatically mutes people, so I have to fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you in the broadcast, Bill, and I'm going to go ahead and unmute yourself, and you're on live, and you should be good.
All right, good deal. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Good deal. Okay. Sorry about that, everybody. We had major malfunction here in Holiday, Florida. All right, this was the 11th of January 2016, and as I said, I got a call from I got an assignment from MUFON. Looked like, you know, one of the many routine assignments we get. And as I started reading it, it was rather a vague initial report. And I spoke to the gentleman. He's a commercial airline pilot, and after multiple assurances that I wouldn't betray his trust in his airline or his name, he told me about an amazing event that happened on 11 January 2016. And as I was talking to him, I was bringing up my up-flight radar 24, which I love to hang around on all the time, and as he was giving me the times and his route and his airline, I actually found his aircraft and was verifying what he was telling me as I was looking at it on flight radar history, because it was exactly where he said it was, at the altitude he said it was, and moving in the direction he said it was. And hopefully I can share this screen. We'll see. Last time I tried this, everything went to hell in a handbag.
I'll find out. So, oh boy. Let's see here. There it is. Perfect.
All right, good deal. So everybody can see that?
Yeah.
Okay, you can see my cursor? No? Yes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to point out his aircraft because you could go back to that time and know who we were talking about. But he told me, he gave me his altitude, he gave me his direction of travel, he gave me his the area, the location that he left and where he was going. And as I said, I checked that out on Flight Radar 24, and by God, everything he told me was correct. And basically, the story is he was in the Tampa area, and he was talking to his co-pilot, about whatever the pilot's talking about to the co-pilots, and the co-pilot leaned forward, looked over his shoulder, and said, "What the hell is that?" And he looked over to his left and observed a giant, a light out over the Gulf of Mexico. He estimated, based on the other aircraft in the area, that this was probably maybe 15 to 25 miles out in the Gulf of Mexico. And it was as it rotated very slowly, it was clear to him that it was a gigantic disc. And he looked back at his co-pilot again. There was some expletives between them, and then the flight engineer seen it also, and he said, "I'm going to check out and see if some of the other guys see this," because I knew the other airliners had to see this thing. He says, and I reached down for the microphone button, and my co-pilot grabbed my hand and said, "Are you sure about this? You want to do this?" And then he thought better of it. He says, "No, I better not." So they kept their eye on it as they traveled, and it was moving. It was clearly moving towards them, moving in the direction of Tampa from the Gulf of Mexico, and it would have been, based on his estimation, almost a mile wide. It was huge. It was a huge disc, and he could tell it was slowly rotating by the lights moving from left to right. And as it approached the coast, it just winked out, just went out. The lights turned off. It was no longer visible. Of course, this was at night, so if it was there, they wouldn't have seen it anyway. And I done everything I could to verify. I went back and checked with the radar data back through, and again verified the flight of his aircraft. And then I went into his pilot credentials, which are available online, and verified that this guy has been an airline pilot, a member of the Airline Pilot Association. He's certified multi-engine commercial pilot. He works for a major airline, and he's been a pilot for many years. So this is one of those fantastic unknowns that I wanted to share with you. It's probably the coolest case I worked in 2016, and one of the coolest cases I've ever worked. It was brief, but the witness credibility is what counts here, because it's amazing. His co-pilot said that he would never talk about it again, and so I wasn't able to interview his co-pilot.
Yeah, no, I always like the witness cases that deal with high, credibility witnesses like pilots. I've worked on a few of those myself, and a lot of times just their perspective, their detailed perspective of those events are typically, it never gets old, because you always get to hear small details that they just pick up on as pilots, and it's usually really interesting. A lot of times I try to get them audio, and and it's totally understandable. A lot of them are afraid because of their careers, and reporting this stuff to anyone, even their own staff, sometimes can get them in some trouble or heat, and we understand that. But just hearing them talk about it a lot of times is just, it changes your perspective on the phenomenon quite a bit. Every time you hear somebody of that caliber talk about what they experienced, it's not just like a reflection off of a balloon flying at 300 miles per hour. These are profound, big objects that people are actually experiencing, especially when it comes down to an airline pilot seeing something, like this, and then that, coming in towards the coast and then turning its lights off. I mean, I've worked on two or three cases actually where pilots were doing that, and the same thing when it comes over a populated area right off of either the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean or the Florida Straits. Same thing a lot of times at night, where whatever track lights or whatever is causing the illumination of the object shuts off before it heads over land.
He was very excited about it. He had heard pilots, had seen them. He had heard about military pilots chasing them and seeing them, but over the years talking to other pilots. But this was his first and only observation. And I told him that in my work, as far as I felt, that seeing one of these was a pretty rare event, and it was kind of like hitting the lottery. He said, "Well, that's the way I felt too." He says, "I got something to tell my grandchildren." So there was no doubt in this guy's mind what this was. There's no conventional aircraft that size. And he also had no doubt that other aircraft in the flight pattern had to have seen it, but nobody said a word. Nobody clicked the radio or said nothing.
Yeah, and that's one thing I wish, unlike in Britain and the UK, they've got rules that they're supposed to be reporting this stuff, so they get a little bit more participation and less ridicule from their employers about talking about these types of incidences. Where in the US, it's completely shut down, just like the incident over here, where it involved multiple pilots and multiple agencies. They all knew it happened. A lot of employees talked about it, but then everybody's told to keep their mouth shut. Even private companies, where they just, not because they're trying to cover things up. It's in those cases, it's where they just don't want the press. They don't want to deal with it, or they don't want to deal with, the media. And so there's no cooperation there for these types of instances, which I think there should be. But, things are different here. And, that's why we're doing what we're doing, right? So we do become that outlet for some of these people, military and private otherwise. So it's always a very interesting thing. Thank you, Bill, for sharing that.
Thank you. Again, sorry about the technical difficulty.
No. Here, show your pretty face again so we can see.
I don't know how to turn the screen share off.
Just go back up to the same green button and push it, and hopefully it doesn't explode on you.
There you go.
There it is. Boom. This is the Q&A section of the presentation. Again, I thank everybody for joining us. I know it was a bit of a longer show than usual, but we wanted to really get into some detail on some of these cases. Again, we're probably going to come back to some of these cases in really high detail in our UFO case profiles coming up in the next couple of months as we make them, where we do about an hour or two specifically on those cases. So without any delay, Dinah, do we have any questions or none at all? I know there's people watching, but I don't know how much interaction we got. I know a friend of mine just texted me who's going to be becoming a field investigator up in your area, Dinah. Her name's Tracy. I just mentioned her first name. I won't mention her last name so I don't embarrass her too much. But she is a professional diver and very skilled investigator. I've worked with her before. And she is currently working on getting her field investigator stuff. So she's going to be one of your peeps soon, hopefully. Anyway, what are the questions you have for us?
I'm afraid we really don't have any questions. We just sort of got them answered as we went.
Yeah, that's okay. Again, guys, if you ever wanted to get involved, anybody watching, just go right to the YouTube. Right at the bottom, you'll see a live chat pop up. Feel free to ask any questions. We have everybody here right now. So, any question's a good question. If you have dissent or if you have an agreement, let us know, because now's the time to interact with us and our investigators and our chief investigator. Let us know what questions you have, and we'll do our best to answer them. So, while we're waiting on questions, I do want to talk about really quickly an event coming up in July. We have a symposium every year, and I'm going to share the screen right now. So the 2017 MUFON Symposium is occurring in Las Vegas, Nevada. Don't know how much I'm going to get done, actual work being in Vegas, but it's a good location. I've been there before. The JW Marriott there is just a wonderful place. Actually fairly inexpensive for the location that it is. It's just a wonderful thing. Then it's not too far away from the Strip. It's nice. In fact, I had some of my best morning runs out there in the desert. So it was just a unique place. But anyway, this year's symposium is on, as it says right there, shows you right on that screen, the secret space program, sort of a discussionary subject matter, also controversial depending on who you talk to. And it should spur some interesting questions and debates. Because, again, you have researchers from both sides of the fence, including the ones on the fence, that are always mentioning space programs and some of the secrets behind that. They can go anywhere from having actual technologies, just like John expressed his opinion on, to just data that they're just not sharing. Sort of like the a lot of people don't understand how that works, but, you know, sort of like how the planet announcement just happened, which was another news show, piece that I didn't mention, which I should have, which was the discovery, or at least the announcement of the discovery of, you know, 7 Earth-like planets around a certain star. And it's not like we didn't know this for a while, but they just didn't confirm it. So a lot of times science is slow when it comes to announcing things, and there are a lot of things that NASA still hasn't told us about their discoveries, because either they're not ready to present it yet, or they're afraid that they're wrong and they don't want to be wrong. And so, you know, there's a lot of debate, you know, like on Mars, some of the discoveries that they've made, you know, even down to the debate where, you know, people, you know, in imagery, they thought they saw fossils. They went to test it and they destroyed the rock without consulting a geologist. So there's a lot of controversy there with that part of the secret program. But then there's other stuff that goes out there that they're going to be getting into. So, you know, now sign up. The earlier the better. It's a huge hotel. Shouldn't run out of space, but you should probably get your rooms and everything very soon, because they will fill up and you will be stuck without a room like I was in 2011. And luckily one of my good friends from my area was here, and I still owe him some money for that. So just kidding. You know, it's a great time. If, you know, even if you don't get to see all the speakers, you get to talk to a lot of great people. I know I spend most of my time in the hallway. Even though I pay for the whole symposium, I end up in the hallway talking to people for hours on end. So you do get to see a lot of great researchers, people you agree with, people you don't agree with. And, you know, it's, you know, the nature of a symposium is just that. It's an open forum. It's meant to be a discussionary period. If you don't agree with somebody, you can express that. You can ask questions. You can interact with the speakers. There's a lot of things you can do there. And there's people you may agree with too, and it would be great to talk to them and share stories. So, you know, think of a symposium as just that, as an open forum to get involved and to see what theories and hypotheses are out there. So, so yeah, again, get on there and sign up and get out there to Vegas. And, you know, I'll definitely be there. And if anybody else is out there, we can get together and have some fun. So anyway, as I come back, does Dinah have anybody participating, or are we good to go then?
We're good to go.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Let me bring everybody back in here. So we hope to see everybody again. Remember, you know, like and subscribe. This is our YouTube channel, so sign up for YouTube and get on there and subscribe to our channel. You'll get the announcements about the live events coming up. Get on our meetup. Join the meetup. It's free. I know it says you have to register, but it's just like you're signing up for Google or something else, whatever. It's a social media. You'll get all the announcements. You'll get all the information, the RSVP. You know, we want to see everybody there. We want your interactions. We want your opinions. Again, I expressed that in the beginning. You know, when you have an opinion, if you disagree with us or if you agree with us, let us know. We're up for debate. We're good about that. We're investigators. We're open-minded, and we're objective. And if there's an argument to be made on either side of a debate or case, we're open to hear about it. So anyway, until next time, guys. Don't have a date, but we'll try to keep it every month. We'll see everybody next month, and some exciting stuff that we'll be talking about. So hopefully, and if you guys have any suggestions of things you want us to do, or subjects you'd like us to cover, or things that we're doing that you want to know more about, please let us know, and we can actually make a program about it and get you involved and hopefully talk to people. So hopefully I didn't forget anything. Unless anybody has anything else to say before we leave, we're good to go. Give me a thumbs up, everybody. All right. So good to go. Till next time.